Hello and welcome to the Social Code Podcast. This is episode 2 of our series about education, the education system. And first of all, hello, welcome Pranav. How are you?
Hey Ayush, hello everyone. Super excited to continue our
Awesome.
conversation on education. Doing well.
Nice. Great. Right. Today we want to talk about the relationship between education and employment, or education and work. Right. We have done an entire series about work previously, the 4 full episodes that, uh, and uh, it naturally people in their heads, people connect the education and work directly. At least education and employment.
Mm-hmm.
There is this sense that uh, with the education system, once somebody is out of the system, one the people that the education system produces, they should be able to get employment easily, or they should be able to make a living easily.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They shouldn't be like jobless graduates, postgraduates, PhDs, or at least they should be equipped enough to start their own small little businesses, maybe also, right, if they're not able to find jobs. And I think that's a fair criticism of the education system,
Mm-hmm.
uh, because like you're spending 20-25 years of your initial 20-25 years of your life going through a system.
Mm-hmm.
If that's basically meant to prepare you for society, but uh, when you come out of it, society says that you're on your, like, you're probably not good enough to serve society. I don't know. That's how I'm thinking about it, right? I have seen so many people who aren't like able to make a living, but they're still very highly educated. Well, they got a lot of credentials, a lot of degrees and diplomas behind their name.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Many abbreviations there as well, right? But not but the inability to find work that pays them money. Why does that happen? Like, is there a solution to this? Let's explore that today.
So I think I do sympathize with the problem that you're bringing up, although I do want to understand.
Yeah,
There are many problems filled in
sure.
the introduction that you gave to employment. I think to begin with, you mentioned people have degrees but don't have jobs. So one is getting a
Yes.
job.
Yes.
Two, you mentioned that they have a job but they don't make a living wage. So like they
Yeah,
get a
that's
job
another.
but it
Yeah.
is not at the same level. Um,
Right.
Three, a question then to be asked also is, I think before I go there, three, you also mentioned something about starting your own business, like
Yes.
being
Yes.
ready to be able to start your
Yeah.
own business, uh,
Exactly.
which obviously interacts with the previous two if you're considering that a type of employment, self-employment type of employment. Uh,
Yes.
but underlying those three things, a thing to be asked is the education system also responsible for making sure uh, that these people get a job? So, like, is that a goal of the education system? That is an expectation
Right.
we have, but it might
Right.
be useful to just talk about
Sure.
also the idea that whether this is a goal of our current education system. And then if you
Sure.
dig
Sure.
deeper, then you have to ask whether this should be a goal of the
Okay.
education system also. So we don't have to touch all the points, but I think there are three surface level questions that you are seeing
Right.
many people not employed. So
Yes.
maybe the problem is in you, in your perception that you are seeing more people who are unemployed but have graduate degrees. Maybe as
Yes.
a percentage in the society, that is not the case. I don't believe that is the case, but like let's say,
Right.
so like we have
Sure.
to examine that.
Yeah.
Part two is they are not getting jobs adequate to their degree, which
Yes.
could be that they are underpaid. And the underpaid could
Mm.
have two flavors: that, oh, you have a PhD in something and you are underpaid by some amount, but your pay is still livable wage, versus
Mm.
you are underpaid and that payment is below livable wage. And
Yes. You
finally
have
is
to do
like,
multiple jobs. Yeah.
right, you have to do multiple jobs. And finally, the surface level third question is self-employment. Are you ready to take the leap and build your own things? And how do we even manage and figure that out? So and then underlying these things is the current education system trying to address this, or is this an expectation
Yes.
we have? And if this is an expectation we have, then is it a reasonable expectation to have from the education system? So like, does this capture the pieces, or have I missed some
Yes.
part of the problems that are not captured in one of these 5 buckets?
No, I think most of what the problems that I have in my mind, I think those are captured here. Yeah.
All right. So
this is a good summarization. Yeah.
Fantastic. So let's try to address them one by one so that we are not mixing a bunch of things. So let's start with perhaps self-employment, because that's a more unique one than the standard ones that you and I both will have a lot to talk about. In terms of self-employment, what do you mean that when somebody is finished their high school or their some form of bachelor's equivalent degree?
Yes.
Do you expect everybody, some percentage, like, who should be ready for self-employment? And so sort of a connected question is, what do you mean by that they're ready for self-employment?
Right. So again, this again has multiple. This again has like 2 or 3 parts to it. But the way I see it is that, but once you graduate from college with a bachelor's degree, undergrad or a postgrad degree or master's degree, you have like a bunch of choices in front of you. Do you go into traditional employment? You join the corporate world? You go into academia? Right, there are multiple industries that you can join as an employee, or you can choose to work for yourself. That's in probably an ideal world, that's a choice that you make. That's an informed choice that you make. But in many cases, probably you don't have that choice, because though you don't get a job anywhere else. Then I think the education system should prepare you to go out there and work for yourself. Be able to generate employment for yourself. At least if nobody else is willing to hire me, then I'll like work for myself as a freelancer, as a consultant, as a business owner. I'll start a small business somewhere. Right, on the internet or on a physical, like in the neighborhood, I'll start a small business. But we see that many people who are highly educated are either not able to do it or don't want to do it. Right, that's another problem, that they feel that there's something wrong with entrepreneurship. It's too risky, it's not for them, or it's perhaps below them. If you ask a master's or a PhD graduate that why are you not working for yourself, and they'll say, no, I have bigger things to do. This is it's beneath me. But I'm sure, let's not get there. Like, we don't have to talk about that. I don't know.
Yeah, so let me ask a few questions again. Like, as you're explaining, there are a bunch of things, as you rightly said. So let's organize our thoughts a bit so that we are not mixing up the problem and where it is coming from. So you said one is having the ability to choose. That is, whether I want to go into a job or I want to do my own thing, self-employment, right? So that is, let's say, that's one category of students who are now capable of making the choice. The education system fails at giving everybody the right tools to make the choice. But let's say it is succeeding with some percentage of people, and for them, it is a true choice, whether they want to go in a job or whether they want to do self-employment. We are not worried about, whether they have the skills to do it or not. That's the second part. But before you going into the second part, you were saying that many people are not able to get a job, and for them, it becomes essentially a requirement that they should go to an alternative path.
Just to put food on the table, right?
Right. So a question would be that let's put this category of people who don't have the option as a separate category. We'll come to this category once again, but this category is not the same as the category who has a choice of making one versus the other. right?
Sure.
Because they are in a different kind of a bind. And the third one is, you said that there is some set of people, let's say in your example with masters or PhD, who think that it is beneath them, or there are other set of people who think for different reasons that this is not something they want to do because it is highly risky and all of those things.
Yes.
Now, I want to capture this third category, and I want to ask, is this category different from the first category? Because in this category, what I'm hearing is these people are evaluating their choice of whether they want to go to self-employment or they want to go to a job. And in their perspective, going in self-employment, for whatever reason they deem reasonable, too risky, beneath me, whatever it is, they are not making the choice to go into self-employment. Is it fair to pull these people in this category, or
fair enough?
Are you thinking of something else?
No, I guess that's fair enough. I guess that's fair enough that they have a choice, that they're consciously making a choice. But, but I want to emphasize that they're making a choice where the difference is probably that even if I don't get a job, I will still not work for myself. Like I'll try hard. The thought process behind this is that I'll try hard, keep trying to get a job for years on end, right? And I will still not attempt to start a small business or go into self-employment. Reduce my skills to.
I think that
is probably, I don't understand that where that choice comes from.
So perhaps we should put a pin in that as a special deep level case, because at least the way I'm hearing, unless you have specific anecdote and it is one person and not like a category of people, it seems not any different from somebody who's hell-bent on, I will make a company work. So they are pivoting from one type of work to other. So like it is the same doggedness or commitment that I will make this work because I don't want to go to a job, right? So it's the same thing on the other side. So I don't see that as a difference, right? So you can make a choice that I want to do something of my own. And even if your first startup failed or your first 10 attempts failed, you're still at it because you believe that you have the capacity to make it work the next time, right? And that is not any different from somebody who said, I have zero appetite for that level of or that kind of work of doing your own business, and I'll keep at trying to find a job. And until I find a job, I'll do something, that gives me the time and space. They are still exercising their choice, right? Whether they're wrong or right is a matter of perspective. So you might think that they're wrong, but somebody else might think that you are wrong. And I don't think that is a judgment here, right? The choice is self-driven.
Sure, of course.
Unless there is a specific deep level example of that, it has been like this guy is doing this for so long and they don't understand that they could do something on their own because it is easier. Perhaps that judgment that it is easier is yours and not theirs, right? Probably. Or maybe even they agree that it is easier, but they don't want to do it, right? So I want to say that.
Yeah, of course, our perceptions are colored. Of course, like it's my perspective. I understand it.
So I'm not trying to shut down this third category. What I'm trying to double check is this category only created because of your own bias in perception, or is there a real category which is different from you are free to choose?
I guess you can bucket them in the same category, yes. But yeah, I do have like my own biases do color my judgment here, where I'm trying to
and that's perfectly fine, right? Like so that is the part of our conversation. That's what we want to figure out. As an education system, what should be, because if the education system takes a stance that no, everybody has to go do a job or everybody has to be self-employed, right? Do you want to be part of that education system, right? It's not any different from a two-party system or a separation of church state kind of a situation where you don't have control over your choices. So then it really is not a choice. So I would not go down that road unless, for some reason we come to the conclusion that the society should decide who gets bucketed where, which I don't, I don't think I will ever get there, but I'm happy to, come to a conclusion through our conversation.
No, of course not. Of course not. Sure.
So, all right. So now let's step back into it, before. So in self-employment, there are two categories. One is people who have the choice. And the concern there is the education system should give them the ability to choose, or should it give them the skill to do either? What is the situation?
The skill. I think they only have a choice if they have the skill to do both. That's how I think about it. That when I come up, when I graduate, I know that I can start a business and I can make it work, and I know that I can get a job. And it's now, and we've seen great examples of this where people have like skipped Ivy League education to go and work for themselves. They have exercised that choice where they
But
have.
then they are skipped out of the system to go and build something. So what would the education system
right,
do?
even after like passing out of an IB school, they will they either like drop out of college, or even after graduating from college, they would not go and join the big firms, and instead they'll start their own thing.
And
So I think
that is
that's
still possible, right? So what is it that is missing there? Like I'm trying to capture.
no, I don't think
What is
in
missing?
this category we haven't. I don't think. There's an issue with this category. I think there aren't enough people in this category who have the skill or the wherewithal to be able to make that choice, that rather have that choice, even to have that confidence, right? But when you graduate from an Ivy League school, you know that even if your business fails 5 years down the line, you can join the corporate world, right? Or on the other side, you know that for 5 years you can work in a corporate world, and after that you can start your own business. And basically they have the skills and the confidence to be able to do both, and they make a choice depending on. So I don't think there's anything wrong with that. What I'm saying is that there aren't enough, that like Ivy Leagues are perhaps like less than 1% of the total output of and India, US, everywhere there are like colleges like this, right, which are like the top of the top, the cream of the cream, right, and only those students probably have this choice, which I think should be there for wider range of
So
students,
let me ask
either
a
based on
question.
the skills that they build, or yeah.
Let me ask a question. Is this really true, or is this sampling bias, or which is called as, you've heard of more examples for people from Ivy Leagues or IITs or all of these places who make this choice and make it big.
Yes.
I don't anticipate that most of the new businesses that are being started up are only by people who are from top colleges.
Sure, that's not, no. So I'm just saying that they have the they right. So this is not probably, of course there's some sampling bias there. I understand that, but I think they still have that confidence.
But then what are the people who are not from these colleges but who end up starting their own companies? Do they not have the confidence? Like I think I'm missing what is missing here. Like what is it that you're saying should be different? So let me ask the question differently.
Sure.
What would be different in this world where you will get more percentage of people who are not from Ivy colleges starting their own businesses? Because if it's a choice, if it truly is a choice, then what is missing at this point? So because I
there
can
aren't
say,
enough people who have that choice, is what I'm saying. There's nothing wrong with the choice. And you can, and people make whatever choice they make depending on their personal preferences or whatever's going on in society at the time. But there aren't enough people in that group of top 1% of 1% who are able to have that choice or make that choice or have the confidence to be able to do either.
I think in the 2 times you repeated the sentence, you shifted the question a bit. So you want more of the 1%ers to have more of that choice, or do you want more of everybody in the education
everybody
system?
to have that choice? I want more of everybody to be able to have the confidence that if I don't get a job, I'll start a business, or if I am going to get a job right now and then I'll start a business 5 years later if I want to.
So that if it truly is a choice, then people can choose to do a job, right? More or less shouldn't be a criteria. right? Because if less people, from your perspective, less percentage of people choose to do self-employment, then is it, so there are two ways of asking this question. The education system is sort of brainwashing them. There is one case for that. Or the other case is most people don't have the same choice set, right? So they could be choosing based on risk profile, and they're like, we don't want to take the risk profile. Or they could be taking on financial profile that, oh, I'm coming from a middle class background. I don't have the luxury or financial cushion to do it. So let me go work. And once they start working, they decide, oh, this is great. I don't have to start my own thing. Right now, my life has changed. I now have kids. I now have this. So now they have made a choice to not go there, which they at some point would have gone if they had the cushion, right? So what I'm suggesting here is, if you can pull out a piece where there's something different in the education system, that will change.
So I'll say I see what the problem is here, right? I'm not able to express it. So what I mean is that it's okay. Or for many reasons they can make either of the choices. The thing is that they have the privilege because of from where they're graduating. They have many privileges over other people who are graduating from lesser schools or smaller, or not well-known schools, or probably not that I think is a failure of the education system, that not every student that comes out of it has the same kind of choices.
So that is I think, okay, so
I think that's more of a broader question that can apply to multiple cases probably.
Exactly. I think I was going to push you for that. I don't think that's an education system problem. I think it's a pyramid problem, like the way we set it up in our work conversation, that people with more capital are able to do more and quicker, right? So to the extent we've set up our education system in the image of our work system, and we have a single pyramid that all schools will be ranked on a single world ranking, right? Automatically, you will start to see status differences. It's the same thing. Over there, it is in work, it is financial capital. Over here, it is brand or social capital. In research parlance, it's called social capital. So you will have more social capital because you go from this kind of a school. And because you go to this kind of school, you'll have friends who've gone to that kind of a school.
Exactly.
So it's the same mechanism of a pyramid building. So maybe I'm missing something. I fail to see how is this an education system problem, and not, so what will happen differently in the education system to solve this problem? And we can come to this later. So I'm happy to pin this and say that this is a broader problem, which is a reflection of the work itself. So if we solve other problems, we may not have to answer the solution. So I'm happy that we've recognized a problem, and it seems this is a more general problem. So we can move on, but
I think we'll keep coming back to this problem with all our cases. I think, let's continue. But I think we'll keep coming back to this problem. It changed because in my head that is like the root probably. I don't know. Let's see.
Okay. Great. So I will come back to get more clarification in your head. Why is that the root? Because that is very interesting, to say the least. Okay, so now, again, we were in self-employment, and there are two buckets. One is people who have the choice and people who don't have the choice. And people who have the choice, we've currently identified the problem as a more grander scale problem of just it's a single big pyramid of how capital flows. In this case, social capital or brand meritocracy flows. Now let's come to this other section in which they did not get a job. Some percent of people, in their education system, they did their, and I think we set at some kind of bachelor's level degree. They did their 3 to 4 years, and they did not get placed through their education system. And now, what do they do? So
they're jobless.
And are you suggesting that they should be able to go and start their own company?
Yes. If they're not able to put food on the table, they should do whatever they can, and their education, their skills, their education basically should come in handy for that. Like the problem is that there are like people doing PhDs in liberal arts, which is not very useful, like quote unquote useful instantly to society. which causes these people, like, again, I don't like to frame it like that. So these people is very, very derogatory, but I don't mean to say
Mhm.
it like that. But what I mean is that it causes a certain section of people to be unemployable by our industrial or employment system, or corporates or companies, and even they are unable to start their own businesses because they don't have the necessary skills needed to be able to do that. But they do have a
Mhm.
PhD or an undergrad
Mhm.
or a master's degree in some obscure top, like, my point is, like, why have that topic at all, right, if it is not going to generate any employment for somebody? Like, what is the point?
Okay, so
uh,
if I'm hearing you correctly, would it be fair to say that in your head, getting employed is the highest goal of the education system?
oh,
Because that's what I'm hearing,
uh,
right? You said
yeah,
they do certain degrees and they're useless to the industry and they're not able to employ themselves, right? So even if you don't mean it in a derogatory way,
yes,
I am not saying that you're being disrespectful. What I'm questioning is, irrespective of whether you have respect them or not,
no,
irrespective of that,
sure,
what you are positioning by this type of framing of
yeah,
this category of people is
yes,
that the highest goal of the education system is to get you a job, or to make you employed. And my question
to,
is that
yeah,
is that what you mean?
I
Because if
mean,
that
they
is
should
not the
be,
case,
yeah,
go ahead.
I mean, they should be able to make a living, right? They should be able to put food on the table, and they should not have
So
problems
I am
with,
I am not okay. So I think it's very important to tease apart an important distinction here. I
yeah,
am in 100% agreement that everybody in the society should be able to make a living and put
yes,
food and support their family.
right,
Not
yeah,
disagreeing. Okay.
exactly,
But to assume
yeah,
that the education system, so the
hmm,
education system here is different from the society at large. Education system
okay,
is a sub function in the society that is giving you the option to, you can come here, spend some years, build some skills, make some connections, and then go out and do your thing. All right. You are saying that that's not how you would describe the education system. You're describing it, you'll come here, gain some skills, and then get employed.
yes,
There is a slight distinction here, in which I'm saying that the education system is a place where you come to gain some skills and then do what you need to do with them, right? So you are free to enter the system in ways that it makes sense to you. So if, for me, studying organizational behavior or
yeah,
history of uh, um, some dead civilization is
exactly,
exciting, and I want to get systematically skilled, or gather some knowledge on those topics, there should be, so like I would argue on the other side, I would like there should be formal and well coordinated channels through which I can gain that knowledge.
right,
And that is the education system. I am not asking that I should have a job in that after that, right? So if I'm choosing
yes,
to study some dead civilization because that
yes,
is what is interesting to me, I don't think I can ask the education system of everything. Like I can probably ask the society, which would also, I don't think it makes sense, right? That is, you're simply
okay,
being like a teenager that I want, I want, I want. That doesn't make sense. If the society doesn't need that job, then that job doesn't exist. The society shouldn't stop you from gaining that knowledge. And the education system is here to help you on your journey to that kind of knowledge or that kind
right,
of skill, right? So the distinction, and this is why I'm saying that getting a job based on the skills you've accumulated during your
mm-hmm.
time in the education system
Mm-hmm.
are two different things. What I'm asking is the goal of the education system both of these things, give you the skills and give you a job that are attached to those skills, or give you those skills? And if I were being complete, I'll create a third category. It is saying that if you come to me to ask for skills, in which there is no job. The education
Yes.
system's goal or purpose should be that I will not give you those skills. I'll tell, we are not going to teach you some dead language
African
on
studies.
Sanskrit.
Yeah.
Let's go, right?
Sure.
I'll not teach
Yeah,
you
there
Sanskrit.
is one Sanskrit newspaper in the world running right now, which is
And I don't think it can employ as many people who are graduating
it
from
will
Sanskrit.
it is about to go under very soon, which is so unfortunate right now.
No,
Yes.
so but here's the thing. So like I know this will deviate, but why
Yes.
is it going under? Because not enough people are doing that, and they're thinking employability, and that paper is not paying enough. So it is a chicken and egg problem. My question is not how to solve the chicken and egg problem. My question is it the responsibility of the
Yes.
education system to
Yes.
throw the hammer on what should be studied versus what should not be studied? And that distinction is also based on the basis of getting a job. And
Right.
if it is not that highest level of requirement from the education system, then we have to lay back, pull ourselves back in our expectations and ask that, okay, the education system, just like a library or just like my, when I have a conversation with
Right.
Google is not guaranteeing me that it will give me a job. But if I search for my coding problem or my how do I fix my refrigerator problem, it will give me the knowledge. It's not saying that,
Yes.
oh, now that you have this knowledge, you will fix it. No, that there is a lot more that happens in between,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
But we don't blame Google for it, right?
I think
It's so I'm not, again, I know I'm coming off very heavy-handed, but I'm trying to really push and understand on, are you saying,
I'll tell you why this happens.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll tell you why this happens.
Hmm.
I think what we've done is that we've made a gross error somewhere that people think that if they get a degree, they'll get a job. Right? There's a lot of credential inflation as well. 50 years ago, people with high school degrees would easily get jobs. And now, like, a graduate degree is an equivalent of a high school degree in 2022 probably, or even worse, because even that can. So let's there's one assumption that everybody wants to get a job and make a living, right? That we all agree. And your point is well taken. I understand that many people would just want to study a subject, and for that they will come into the education system, which is great, good for them, very nice. But many people come into the education system just for the credential, to be able to use that credential and go on to get a job, or go on to make a business out of it. And just and not every credential, so we can go into like things like liberal arts or studying a dead civilization, and that doesn't have a job, but that still gives them the credential, and then they are left asking themselves, like, I have a PhD or I have a master's. So that's the wrong expectation that
so you made a jump here, and let me point out the jump, and let me double check if you are meaning to make that jump, because you said that there is an assumption, or let's say people come in with an idea that not everybody comes in that I want to study this. They many times come that I want a degree so that I can get a job.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
And if you're coming for a degree to get a job, then you are also attributing to that individual the understanding that getting this degree is actually going to get me a job. And if that is the case, then up until now, the education system has actually not come into play. It is still at the level of, right? So because you're saying that if I'm coming in with the motivation in the education system to get a job, otherwise, why would I even care to go, right?
Yes.
Right? Then if you're coming with that expectation, then it makes sense that you should be choosing a degree that will give you a job.
Yes.
All right. And if that is the case, then we shouldn't worry about people choosing a degree that does not give them a job, because under these assumptions, we are simply saying that people have chosen that degree because they want that degree. They don't worry about the job, or they understand.
Yeah. The problem is they don't get the get the degree that they want, right? It's a game of so from the student's perspective, it's a game of probabilities. If I do an MBA from Harvard, there's a 100% chance that I'll get a job. But if I do African studies from Delhi University, or African studies from any rural university, or Sanskrit studies from any rural university in Tamil Nadu, I will not get a job. Okay. And when they're making that choice, if they cannot get into Harvard, and there's a pecking order they'll go, okay, not this, then this, then this, then, and the lower you go, the lower your probability of getting a job becomes as a student. And problem is that probably 60-70% of students end up entering into colleges and getting degrees which they know that they are highly unlikely to get employed from, but they have like no choice. A credential is only
So
the thing that they're after.
where did they miss the choice? Because you said they know that they are highly unlikely to get a job with that degree, but they don't have a choice. So I think that's the part where the jump is happening.
The least you want is a credential, right? The least you want is a credential, a
but
degree.
You've just established that the reason you want a degree is to get a job. So why would you? And when you understand that this degree has a low probability of getting me a job, then why are you pursuing it? Or
because
if you're pursuing it, you understand
better one isn't available. Because the better one isn't available. Like I cannot get into a better college and do a better degree. Simple as that.
So would that mean?
So what can I do, right?
No. So here's the question.
Yeah.
Would that mean that there are certain number of jobs and the number of jobs are lower than the number of people graduating? And because that is the case, the jobs start filling up from the top. And as soon as the jobs are over, everybody who's below does not get a job. So does this mean the problem here is not the education that, oh, you came to a lower level school and you were given civil engineering. So it is lower level for various reasons, but you still have knowledge and know-how of civil engineering. But when you go out there, there are not enough civil engineering jobs to get to you. So the question then there is, the education system is not creating the jobs.
Right.
Even if tomorrow, by let's say, if I was like a wizard and I granted that particular institution to get up to the level of Harvard, it will just push down some other school out of that box where the jobs are getting over, right? So per se, the college is not the problem. The capacity is the problem, that the number of jobs are not enough for the number of graduates. Is that fair, or are you saying something different?
No, I think that's fair.
So then the question is, if that is fair, then the question is it the education system's responsibility to make sure that there are enough jobs in the industry?
Of course, that cannot be. Right. That's the industry's problem. Not industry's problem also. Like that's the society's. That's the way society is structured.
No, that if you set up a market mechanism, the way we've been talking about, then that's how the market mechanism works. Somewhere the line is drawn, and for many people, they are in the 11th ranked university in the world, but the company that they want their job in only recruits from the first 10. That is not any different from somebody who is in 10,000 first rank school, and the company that they would be okay, just getting a job with stops at 10,000. So the situation is really not any different, but we don't blame the 11th ranked university of being insufficient. We just say that's market mechanics. Right? You can jump or you can aim higher, because the university is not trying to create a job. The university is simply saying that we've given you the skills, but getting a job is more than just the technical skills for whatever is needed.
Of course.
Right?
course.
There's networking, there is connections, there is probability, and like I am pretty sure that there are many people who go to the lowest ranked schools, never attend a day in class, but they have a job waiting for them outside.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, of
So
course.
if that is the case, jobs are not being assigned on the simple basis that you have a degree or
Right.
you have this. Jobs are being generated with an independent mechanism from the
Mhm.
education system. And to the extent the number of jobs and the number of graduates does not match, you will always have that problem. How do you expect the education system to change itself
Mhm.
to in any way affect a mechanism that it has no say on?
This is where this is where my point of self-employment comes in, right? If you cannot get a job, you start creating jobs, right? And the
So-
education system should.
So
Yeah.
I'm back. So like then we are back to this problem of you start creating
Yes.
jobs. It's like if you're so there is one of two reasons you would not be getting a job. One is you're not technically skilled enough to get a job, because if you're technically
Yes.
skilled enough, then with the right things and you can get a job. Or the other one is that, so let's say if you're not technically skilled enough to crack a job, then it makes zero sense for you to start a company with that skill, because that company will not survive. So that could be a
Yes.
simple reason for somebody who does not get a job to not start a company, because they're like,
Sure.
I cannot crack a damn interview by coding for my 15 minutes. How will I start a software development agency? Does not make any
Right.
sense. And I've spent the past 4 years, getting a
Studying software development.
to whatever extent. So one argument could be that, they did not study when it is. So it is partly university responsible, partly the person is responsible, partly the social system around that person is responsible. So so like we can try to play the blame game, but I'm trying to understand
Sure.
and push in the direction of what do you want from the education system for the lack of capacity, right? Because if you are entering, let's say if you are running an institute and you've admitted 20 people for teaching software development or for teaching accounting, right? You are giving them skills that are necessary for accounting.
Yes.
Okay. How do you consider it your mandate that I have to not only give them the skills necessary for accounting, I should teach them how to start an accounting firm?
Okay.
Or give them the capital to start an accounting firm, or give them the real estate, or give them the network. Like where do you stand if you are running this institute and you are admitting people to teach them accounting? You're a knowledge center,
Yes.
right? How what changes will
I'll
you
probably, yeah. So this becomes a bit. I can give a good example of this where I have like a writing course myself, right? And people, and like I just give them the skills, right? I give them the material, the curriculum, and I give them the exercises that they need to do. And once they've done that, they should be equipped. They should be equipped enough to become freelance writers and start getting gigs.
They should be
to
equipped
write
enough.
They will be equipped enough if they do everything else, everything that's there in the curriculum, and they go out and follow the strategies that I try to teach. They will be equipped enough. But do they do it or not? It's up to them, or again on the market. And on whether there are enough gigs available.
So you are not.
I see. So yeah, I'm agreeing to you.
You're not taking the responsibility of market mechanics. You're taking the responsibility of knowledge dissemination, right? So you're already running an institute.
Yeah. So
how is it different? How is it different? And again, I'm not taking the side of the education system. I'm saying that I deeply care about it and I'm deeply frustrated by it equally. But I think it would be unfair, pointless, years of conversations and energy wasted if we don't diagnose the problem realistically. That what is it that we want from our education system.
Yes.
And what is
Yes.
it that it can do, that it has the power to, successfully accomplish. So if I'm hearing, and we've not gone to the top two categories, like this is also self-employment category that I thought would go very quickly. Even in this category, we can only pick one, which is we can either give you the skills,
yes,
and then you're up by yourself, and then either you can make a choice if you have the resources, and if you don't have the resources, we still cannot give you a job. We can give you the skills.
yes,
If the market crashes and suddenly all the jobs dry out, the education system can do nothing. Now, we can imagine an education system where we say that no, the education system should have the power, and we can design such an education system, and it has to work very differently. The current education system cannot do that. A good question to essentially answer now is, we've diagnosed the problem in this subset, but a good question to ask is, do we want our education system to have that level of power and that level of interconnectedness, that it is able to successfully achieve goals beyond giving you the knowledge that you need, and also wield enough power to tell you that don't pursue this goal?
No, not at all. Not at all. Yes. No, I agree. I get your point. And I think even if we take the other cases, this concept will repeat itself. That how much power do we want to give the education system? And I think in a decoupled society, or in a fair society, the role of the education system is to as like dispense knowledge, and knowledge. Yes, if there's a subject that somebody wants to study and there's no course around it, that can probably be
so that I would say that will be a fantastic problem for an education system to solve, that within itself it can generate mechanisms through which it can attract world scholars on that topic if they find that there are students or people, like, and students here not necessarily being 17-year-olds, but even 45-year-olds for some reason are now attracted to a particular course on how do I study Sanskrit, right? So the education system should have mechanisms through which they can incentivize the creation of courses, or they can mobilize the existing experts in the world on Sanskrit to come together and offer a course. That I am wholeheartedly in agreement with. I don't know how that happens now, but that is a problem that we can come to when we are thinking about how do we design an education system. After we've figured out what are realistic goals for the education system. Right now we are in problem understanding mode, not in problem solving mode, right? Let's put a pin on this. This is an exciting problem that I think should be in the purview of the education system. We'll come to this in a future episode. But now let's get back to, so for the self-employment bucket, we've just established that getting you to employment is not the goal. While it is frustrating, it is not the goal, because it does not have the power to achieve that goal. Giving you the skills necessary that you as a learner, as a student demand, is within the purview. Now, this connects us to the other two buckets that we had set aside in the beginning. One was that you are studying a course and not getting a job that is paying enough, matching up that, or you are studying, you're studying and the pay that you're receiving is much lower than a living wage. Right? Was there another category?
No, I think this
those are the categories, right? So now we are connecting this final piece. What is remaining here is that if you're entering a system demanding study on a particular topic, and the education system obliges, then it connects to the place where it's a, you are doing a certain type of study and you're not making a living wage, because the job that you're getting is not in that particular field. Right? And we've partly covered the same rationale here, and tell me if there's a different rationale. The rationale is similar. If the education system is not being judgmental in sorting kids in, or sorting students in different courses, or telling them with a heavy hand, don't take this course, then it cannot be held responsible for the outside outcome of that course. What it should be held, yeah, go ahead.
Can it teach them to make an informed choice about what they should be pursuing? Like, I should be able to know by the time I pass out of high school, or I should have enough knowledge or intelligence to figure out what's doing well in the market, and how should I structure my higher education from that point. Is that a fair ask from the education system?
You tell me.
I think so. If I understand that there's a whole jobs market and the industrial, that's a corporate world, and education system cannot control that, but it can control the meta thing, where it can teach people to study the jobs market, to study the industry, and to figure out that what is the right course they should be taking when they go into higher education. That is, like, I think, a fair expectation from the education system.
I would tend to agree.
Like, if engineering is doing well, if there are enough engineering jobs, and then I'll take an engineering. If if there's more, in India we call it like scope, like there is more scope in accounting, right? There's more scope in engineering, or there's more in doing an MBA. Then a student, when they pass out from high school, they should be able to chart a trajectory of the next 5 to 7 years of their education life, that leads them to employability, right? Leads them to a job at least, or the ability to chart that plan, that should be done by the high school level, right? That should be taught.
So that let's go with the assumption, because you're examining here, let's go with the assumption that that's a fair ask, right? And I agree with you that that's a fair ask, but let's not be biased, right? Let's go with the assumption that if it is a fair ask, what are we actually demanding of the education system?
Sure.
So somebody from high school, or somebody in their 25 looking for a different career, comes to us, and we are the education institute, and says, I want to do, let's bring back Sanskrit. I want to study Sanskrit, right? And we should say, all right, you can study Sanskrit, but here's some statistics. Every year, over the past 4 years, only 4 people who have Sanskrit PhD have been employed. Nobody with a Sanskrit master's has been employed. So only place where Sanskrit masters go is in a Sanskrit PhD, or do something else that is not Sanskrit related,
or teaching Sanskrit, or in a college to people who want to do a Sanskrit master's. So it's
okay.
Right.
No, fantastic.
It's a circular thing.
From an education perspective, if they're getting a lot of demand for people to study Sanskrit, they want teachers, right? And they're like, to teach an undergrad level Sanskrit course, a master's level is fair enough. So, right? So they are generating employment, right? Like, so in that sense, becoming a teacher in Sanskrit is actually an employment opportunity.
Sure.
I know
but there aren't enough.
Circular,
but
but there will never be enough, because one teacher can always teach more than 10 students. So there'll never be enough. So, right. So it's not a sustainable system, but it is part of employment numbers that are generated. All right. So, okay. So let's say every year, 30% of Sanskrit masters go on to do PhDs. 30% go on to become 10% go on to become professors of Sanskrit, and the remaining 40%, 60%, they are like, they don't have a job, so they go find other employment in non-Sanskrit related things.
Yes.
As bachelors, the numbers are even bleaker.
Yes.
So about 5% of them go on to do masters, and rest of them are not employed in Sanskrit. They all know Sanskrit. They all can write in Sanskrit. They all can speak in Sanskrit. They're probably doing podcasts in Sanskrit. It is a part of their hobby, their thing that they're doing. But this is 2022, 2021, 2020, and 2019. So I have 4 years of data, and I've given you that data. I am not taking away your choice.
Yes.
All right. Now, the student comes in. Now let's role play, right? Like the student comes in and is like, oh, I know I want to study Sanskrit because in 2026, this is an upcoming trend. There'll be more people across the world who will want Sanskrit professors. So even now, if the Sanskrit professors are all here and only 10% are getting employed, in the next 4 years, 70% of them will get employed. And these are the only two institutes that are actually creating Sanskrit graduates. So if I'm coming from here, in the next 4 years, I'll be at the top of the pile. Right? That is the student's perspective. Because they've thought why they want to study Sanskrit. There's another student who comes in, I want to do podcasting in Sanskrit. I don't care about money. Right? Now what do we do with these two students?
No, so if that information is correct, that in 2026 this is going to be really good.
No, but then okay, all right. So this is an interesting thing. If that information is correct, how do we know it is correct? We are all guesses.
They should be able to figure out. They should be able to figure out that this information is correct. They should be able to find I think the very first point that I want to study Sanskrit, I think most people don't know what they want to do. Right? Okay. When they graduate from high school, they don't know what's right, what's wrong, and where they should be going. I think that is the least that the education system can do, is to give them the knowledge and the intelligence and the skills to figure out like which to figure out which stream to pick, or figure out which topics to go deeper in. If it's Sanskrit, it's Sanskrit. Yeah.
Excellent. When? So when I'm entering the 4-year course, I'm supposed to make a choice. Yes. So when is the education system? So now we are trying to be like, no, we are not talking of bachelor's level. You're saying
up until that point, till in 15 years of education, this like vocational figure outness, like which vocation is it should be a course, probably, I don't know.
Okay, so now as the graduate level or a bachelor's and graduate level education providing institute, what do you do in that circumstance? Do you provide Sanskrit or do you not do?
Yeah. No, you provide everything that's in demand, basically, right? Whatever the student wants, you teach.
Do you enforce upon them that I know we are teaching you Sanskrit, but you should also take a minor in computer science or a minor in whatever is the employable degree?
No, don't do that. I don't think that needs to be done. Yeah.
All right. So as long as people keep choosing some level of courses that in the 3 to 4 years in the future, they may not get jobs for, we will always have this category of people who are underpaid in the field that they spend 3 to 4 years studying.
Yes.
Okay. So now the demands here are, realistically speaking, predicting the future, because we want to tell people what will happen in 3 to 4 years. Now think back.
No, we want the people to figure out for themselves that what is going to happen.
But we want them to. But
we want to give them that knowledge, that skill, that ability to figure out what's going to happen in the next 4 years.
But realistically, the ask is, we are not going to tell you. We need you to figure out. But the ask still is that somehow you should have a crystal ball to know what will happen in 4 years.
Yes.
And I think that is an unrealistic ask of anybody. Forget the education system.
Yes.
So are we fundamentally saying that as long as we are looking for certainty in the future,
yes,
we are setting ourselves up to the problem of having some percentage of people
dissatisfied
or jobless or underpaid?
Yes.
Okay.
I think that's a fair conclusion to make, that because again, predicting the future is hard. I've known people who go by like whatever is trending right now, and they spend 6 years on it, and by the time they graduate, it's pointless, it's useless.
Kaput. Yeah, and they took a call.
Yeah.
I would say it is not any different from being self-employed. You're taking a call on what product I should build and how I should do,
Yes.
find a market fit. And by the time you find it, the market fit, and somehow somebody else has come in and eaten up all your market share, and now you need to do something different,
Yes.
right? So it is.
Yes.
So if we were to bring it down and say that rather than framing it as I want to give you the skill to figure out what will happen in 4 years, let's frame it differently and ask, I want to give you the skills to understand how to work in a changing world.
Yes. I think, yeah, that's like the broader thing that education system should teach. Like that's life skills, right? You should be able to, critical thinking should be there, right? You should be able to figure out that this is a dynamic world and it is constantly going to change, and you're going to constantly need to have to upskill yourself. And this is another thing, that education system should not end at 2025. People continuously need to upskill themselves.
No,
Every
there is
5
a
to 10
whole
years.
bunch. There is a whole bunch of exec ed. There's a whole bunch of folks like you who are running online
Yeah.
courses for everybody and
Yes.
anybody who's willing to do it. So I don't think the
Yes.
education system ends like, okay, the schooling system perhaps has a more structured version of it and it ends. But let me not. I think that is. I am digressing. Let me pull us back on the point of the conversation. So if you and I agree that the skill that we should be giving is about
Yes.
understanding how to thrive and work with a changing system, in that context figure out the skills you need, get those skills,
Yes.
and go out there and apply them. So if you need Sanskrit and go out there and build a podcast, and that's your vision and you think it will happen and it's worth spending the time, that is something you should be able to do. I should not tell you that don't do Sanskrit, right? And I should not tell you that we are not teaching Sanskrit, right? So we've now come there, but here's the important question where we started with. In this category of people, we set the expectation for the schooling system or the education system to get you a job that pays you more than your living wage. We've come to a conclusion that the skill that the education system needs to depart is figuring out how to work in a changing world. Compare these skills with your goal. Even if I teach you how to work in a changing world, am I giving you a job that pays enough, or am I not? So if this is the evaluation criteria, right? At the end of it, the evaluation criteria is whether Ayush and Pranav, who've come out of the system, whether they have a job or not. Is that a meaningful evaluation criteria for the skill?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I think if they're skilled enough, they're good. Like if they're able to do something well, that's good enough. Like that's the role of the education system, and that will be unfair.
Fair. Fantastic. And I think this has been a helpful conversation, even me, to come to the same conclusion. So this is not any different from the previous category that we discussed, in which says employment is not the goal. Right? Getting a job is not the goal, even for this second category. And now if we pull in the third category, which was essentially the best of the four categories, in the sense that you have a job, but it is not paying enough. It is more than living wage and everything. It is not paying enough. So it is not a good job. I think that really connects to both of these problems. One is it is not a good job, perhaps because of market mechanics, the self-employment conversation that we had. Or it is not a good job that is paying enough is because you need to change your skill set or the combination of skill sets that you have, or apply the skill sets that you have in a different perspective, such that you get paid more, or such that you generate more value for the society that it is willing to pay today. Right? But none of that is or is not, right? Like I was going to say that none of that is the role of the education system. But let me not put words in your mouth and ask you. We just had that conversation, but let me again ask you, does it still make sense that neither of those things, for getting you a job that is paying enough, the criteria or the final output of the schooling education system, the higher, at least bachelor's and higher level.
Hmm. 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 No, no, I agree with you. Uh, I think we'll keep coming back to this, that the world is dynamic, it's changing, and the education system needs to focus more on probably on the meta skills of figuring out what's happening in the world and what the world needs, and how can I make live a full life, right? It's not just about employment. There's the issue of happiness. Even people who do get the job, who have a lot of money, they're not happy with the life that they're living, or they don't have good relationships, right? They're not able to make they get a lot of money, but they also get a lot of debt, like personal finances is broken, right? They take on so much debt that it's just not sustainable. Even when they have the skills and the jobs and the work and self-employment, everything that we've discussed, they're still falling short. The expectation is that the education system will take care of everything.
So
Yeah. I think we also need to wrap up.
Yes, and I think I agree with you. This is a good point, but like, just to summarize, the last set of things that you told or were talking about is a bigger, broader category of life skills that we should come back to perhaps in the next episode. But for this episode, we started out with the first goal, thinking as getting a job is the goal of the education system, and it is failing, and it's failing people at 3 different levels. But in our digging into the problem and understanding the problem, we've essentially concluded that getting a job should not be the goal of the education system, or should not be our expectation of our education system, because it is not a responsibility that can be shouldered by the education system.
Yes.
The only thing that we would want our education system to do is give that meta skill, and also provide the hard skills, which is like, we need nuclear scientists, and we need some place to systematically teach them about nuclear science. And that should happen, irrespective of whether it's a good deal for them outside or not. In terms of their employability, right? So there is a core knowledge granting space goal, and then there is the meta life skill goals. None of them are currently tacked on getting a job.
Sure. I understand. So I understand that getting a job or getting employable is probably not the direct goal of the education system, but the 2 other goals that we discussed right now, I think we should move that discussion to the next episode. One is the life skills, the meta skills question, that education system should teach that, and the other one is the core education that they're providing, is that good enough? Like the quality of the education, probably the quality of the teachers that are there, like in science labs, the equipment, why is it not good enough? Right, though we probably should have a discussion about that sometime in the future, around the things that need to happen for you see that you're going to teach a skill like chemical engineering or civil engineering or computer science engineering, and people go through that course, that 4-year course, but they aren't good enough. And it's just not, of course there is personal agency as well, where people need to spend more, put in more effort to get that education. But in many cases, in many institutes, there just aren't enough resources for people to, or there just aren't good enough teachers or the equipment or the infrastructure to teach those hard skills, probably. And that, again, we can park that discussion for a later conversation as well. For today, I think we
sounds exciting. I'm Today was a good, like, while heavy, but a good conversation, I think. And between you and me offline, let's pick the next topic, whether it should be
Yeah,
life
yeah,
skill, whether
sure.
it should be the infrastructure or the business of running
Sure.
education systems.
Sure.
Let's pick one and keep pulling.
Sure. Awesome.
Awesome.
Cheers. Bye, Pranav. Bye, guys. Have a nice
Thanks.
day.
Thank you, everyone.
See you next week. Cheers.